Okay, hello everyone and welcome. Thank you all for joining this event dedicated to the reforestation of the Amazon rainforest. We are grateful to becoming a tree community for facilitating this event, for fundraising and co-organizing it together with DDL, Digital Dramaturgy Lab Squared. And I'm overwhelmed to moderate tonight's event, Minding Niimi, Imagination Imaging, a wood wide web digital theater in round on interactions and politics between humans and trees. And I also appreciate organizers inviting me, as this topic is also at the very heart of my own practice, both curatorial at Riksi Art Science Center in Riga and also artistic, like my recent work, Atmospheric Forest, which is also my background, also was very much about trying to find these complex relations between the forest and air, or terrestrial and aerial ecosystems. So I'm as excited as you all to experience tonight's program. which has show and tell session format. We will show the videos first, and then we have a discussion, and then we move to the next video. So in this digital theater in round, so the next one point, the next video of tonight's program then moves to the center. So the first experience, so before we experience this amazing digital theater performance, format by DDL squared. So I would like also to introduce the collaborators of this group. And also I just to mention that first when I experienced myself, this performance was last year in Riga via Zoom virtually, of course, for Ecodata Riksjāt Science Festival. So this was also where the first performance of Niimi project took place. So I'm really happy to present that the first video will be Niimi, he dances. And also it will be followed by two other guest performances by Julia Campbell-Sach and Giselle Trudel. And so just before we go to Niimi, first video, short introduction to this absolutely amazing team, I would say. I was so much impressed also last year, so seeing that you keep going with these topics. Candy Blair, dancer choreograph, Antje Bude, artistic research director, digital dramaturg, media creator, performer, producer, Jill Carter, land-based dramaturg, artistic director, performer, Lars Crosby, music and sound composer, performer, Nina Segledi, media creator and human connector, Dave Kemp, live video, Karin McCollum, virtual space and interaction designer, drawing artist, Don Sinclair, computational artist, interactive virtual space designer, performer, and in memory of co-creator Asta Debo, died November last year, 2020, a dancer choreograph from India. And now we show Niimi.
How would you approach a being with respect that you might have been detached, like you might be native, but then you might have been detached from the ways in which our ancestors would communicate to these beings in a respectful way. So what's the way that you approach a being that's been harmed for like years and years and centuries and centuries without coming to it as, with saying, I'm not a threat. I'm not a threat. I'm not a threat. The first reaction was like, okay, I give you my child. I give you my child. And in my dream, he was speaking through my mind, working through my mind. And I just have to stand here and live with years and years and years of what I see now and all the destruction and the restrictions, having plastic or constricting others. And I'm trying to protect my baby, my next sleep. I'm humbled by the fact that we're still alive and knowing that trees supply us with oxygen. They clean our water. Some trees give nitrogen to the fruits and the vegetables and the earth. They give us shading, they give us homes. I have a roof over my head because of trees.
Okay, so thank you for this beautiful video, and would like to ask the team, who are the dancers and what these dancers experienced at this location.
Who are the dancers? Yeah, so one dancer is Candy Blair. She's also in the Zoom room. I hope she will engage soon. And then the other dancer is Asta Debu. He's a very well-known choreographer and a modern dancer from India. And in response to Candy's site-specific exploration of her dance and communication with a tree that was found by Jill, he also created a choreography in response to Candy and the tree. And the original idea with regard to that particular tree that was discovered by Jill came from Jill. And so I think that's probably the moment where Jill can say something about that. Jill, can you unmute yourself?
Oh, yes. So, Ani, hello, everybody. My name is Jill Carter, and I'm an Anishinaabe and Ashkenazi Kwe, born in Zedagadondo, or Toronto. For some years now, I have been quite interested in Indigenous marker trees. These are trees whose limbs have been manipulated by our ancestors to offer direction for people moving along trails, to indicate food caches, to indicate places of council. I grew up in a city, and I met my first marker tree, and I was introduced to that tree by Elder Philip Cote in 2017. And I became fascinated. It is a tree located in High Park in Toronto. And High Park is one of the last remaining areas where you can see the original savanna that this place, city, and beyond would have been. It's a black oak savanna. So I began looking for more trees in the city. It's much easier to find them in the bush. But I thought, are there any left in this city? I personally live on top of a 1-dot village. Just a block and a half away from me is a 1-dot mound, and a public school is built on top of that, and of course human remains beneath that. I live very close to the border of this 1-dot village, so the trail, the north-south trail. So particularly during COVID, I began to think about marking and mapping marker trees in the city. And I had a whole group, a working group. We all lived in different areas of the city. So I said, everybody's walking now, go for a walk where you live. And let's start looking for trees, photographing trees, seeing those trees, and bringing in, I brought in people like Joel Ringat and Philip Cote and various elders as consultants to sort of look at these trees. And we're still doing this. This is an ongoing project. We haven't found many, but we found some. I found this tree in High Park. It's not a marker tree, but it speaks to me in a huge way. It's a denser tree in a beautiful high fifth.
It was Oriole Park, wasn't it?
Yeah. What did I say? I'm sorry.
High Park. So
I said High Park. Yes, Oriole Park.
That was the other tree that you first met, I think.
Yes. So I found this tree, and it has spoken to me for some years. When I see it, it makes me want to dance. And I started asking myself questions about we Indigenous people who are here in these cities and maybe haven't spent a lot of time in the bush, although I've spent some time. How do our bodies respond to these inscriptions that our ancestors have left for us? How do we move? How do they move us? How are they aligned with the planets? Because they're aligned with the planetary bodies. They're aligned with the mounds. How are they aligned with everything around us? And how do I recover some of that language and respond with the language that I have today? And I hope, this is an ongoing project, I hope, where we will take many bodies and bring them into conversation with these beautiful living bodies and with these messages, directional messages left to us by our ancestors. And Candy's body was the first body, excuse me, that began to do this work. And I guess I'll stop now because I've been talking a long time.
Okay, I see Candy Blair has joined us. Two of you. How was the dancing going with this tree in the city?
Sorry about that. I had to go, my son was calling me. It was really nice. I didn't expect to get so emotional. And even on the subject, right, the deforestation and of the Amazons, it's interesting to see how it's still going on during the pandemic. It was a nice connection. I felt like it brought me back to growing up and being around the big lakes and being up in the bush in the middle of nowhere. And it was it was really sad because I thought what would it be like for us to be standing in place in without like immobile and seeing years and years of destruction going by. Very what's the word? Parallel to, kind of sort of similar to what's been going on in Indigenous history on this land. For years not being able to, like, we're trying our best to do changes now, but kind of like trying to do things, and we see a lot of not so positive changes around. Thinking like, how would it feel like to be like a tree standing immobile and seeing your family members being cut down in front of you? That's how I felt dancing. But there was also beauty. I felt beauty within it. I felt a connection. How does it feel like to be connected to all those root systems, connecting to all the other trees and feeling the nourishment from the sun, and vice versa, supporting each other like a community? That's what it brought me to. Any other questions? Oh, and this one was in my stomach when I was dancing. Now he's out of my stomach.
Yes, I apologize.
Yeah.
I said Candy was the first body, but there were two bodies there, two beautiful bodies there. Candy,
How was your dance?
one of the questions that you explored, and maybe you want to talk about it a little bit, is a question around consent. How do we seek consent to even film this tree? We worked with consent about how did I approach Candy with this digital eye? How did I seek and gain consent? How did Candy seek and gain consent to approach this body, this tree? Maybe you want to talk to that, Candy.
How do we gain consent? Do you want to share it, Zilla Howie? Don't be shy. Right there. There's people there. I think he's shy, or he doesn't know what's going on. Yeah, that's a really interesting question. How do we ask for consent? The way I approached the tree was to first let the tree know that I'm not a threat, because what do you do when somebody's been in a survival situation for years and years and years? Normally there's a lot of fear attached to that. You don't know the person that's approaching you. So the way I approached the tree was I went belly first, said, I'm not a threat, I'm willing to offer you my child. I mean, not saying somebody can, that's how you ask for consent, but it's the ultimate way of letting someone know, anybody know, not just the spirit of a tree, but like you're not a threat, offering something. Many times as Indigenous people, we offer tobacco with a prayer, and we ask, that's how we would ask permission on many things. It's like it's the same thing with if you're going to talk to if you're picking medicine, you don't just walk in slumping all over and taking what you want. You don't even know if that's going to be the last medicine standing, so you often look to make sure that there's more than one. You place your tobacco before going, and you ask to find it. If you don't find it, you don't harvest it. That's it. That's like but yeah, you give something back, you give tobacco. It's the same thing if you're talking to an elder, you give tobacco. Even if you're talking for a friend, you're asking for some sort of advice, it's nice to just give, here, this is my trade for your knowledge. Here, this is my trade for giving me your blood. If you're taking, water from the tree, like maple water from the tree, thank you for giving me your blood and giving life to me and my family. Here's tobacco for, here's something back. Showing you're not a threat and giving something back. I think that's one way of asking for consent from a
Thank
being
you.
that communicates
Thank
different
you.
from us.
Thank you. Thank you, Candy. Really, really great explanation. So yeah, thank you in so detail describing this. And yeah, hello to your baby, because you both were dancing. It was amazing. Okay, so now we can show next Niimi video.
This can be a recording of anything we want to tell about the object that I draw and place in the dimensional field. It can be an object that is, it can come from the, I can translate it from the Zoom whiteboard or any other way that our viewers can interact with us, so they too can create objects that I will put in the object room, and they can upload stories that I can put in to accompany their objects when they're clicked on, so that we have an interactive room. It might be trees. It might be put everybody who knows of a marker tree or a story about a tree, put it in this room, and we can have, not a room actually, we could just have an open platform, a globe populated with tree drawings and stories that come as you click on them.
Niimi. That one is dancing. Indigenous marker trees abound across Turtle Island. These natural bodies, subtly reconfigured by the Indigenous ancestors, are earthworks that speak to us across the centuries in an imperfectly remembered language. Many descendants of those who inscribed their teachings and directives in mounded earth, on scrolls of birch bark, on painted rocks, and in the twisted boughs of trees, labor to reclaim and to interpret these systems of inscription with as much vigor as they invest in the revitalization of their nation's languages. This micro-project concerns itself with embodied intelligence, the communication of that intelligence as a performance enacted by the other than human body, and human response to that intelligence performed somatically. How does the contemporary Indigenous body read, hear, and develop language with which to respond to this encoded legacy? What do other bodies read and hear? What is the language through which those other bodies respond?
Okay. So again, I would like to ask the question to the team. So this already was a bit different story, but you would like to say about it.
I was responding to the tree, as well as to Candy's dancing, as well as to Astad's response to Candy's dancing. So layers and layers of response to the tree. In the form that I wanted to explore was drawing, but putting the drawing into dimensional environments. So the first one was just a sample of seeing what we could do with drawing into an object, a sculptural object, and moving around it in space, and then placing them around the tree in the second response. And it's still an ongoing project of exploring drawing and in relation to space and in response to the tree. So it's another layer of Niimi.
Yeah, and maybe I can chime in as well, because one of the questions we asked ourselves last year was, how are we going to continue our performance work in a Zoom box? And can we find ways to break up the Zoom boxes a little bit at least? Can we create some kind of virtual three-dimensionality and infuse it into our project as a performance space? So starting from a land-based dramaturgy that Jill is a specialist in and an experimenter and explorer of land-based dramaturgy. We were also trying to see how we can translate these kinds of spaces and bodies into virtual lands, so to speak, because Zoom in a way is a very boring teleconferencing tool, which can be very practical, but artistically speaking, it's not very exciting. And at the same time, Jill was also inventing a land acknowledgement for the virtual world, responding directly to Zoom. Of course, we live in this colonial country here in Canada, and we have a range of conversations with Indigenous peoples, and they are not always as productive and peaceful as I wish they were, for them to reclaim their rights to the land and their histories. And so it was really important to feel and see the land on which we have the privilege to live here as settler Canadians or immigrant Canadians. But at the same time, we did find ourselves in a virtual space, and we tried to find something where we could connect the art of hand drawing that runs directly from the body into an image, into the virtual world, while also acknowledging the fact that Zoom is not an idea, it is an actual company that is located in a place, and using it, all of us using high-speed internet and servers does actually also cause harm to the environment. And so that's also an important aspect for us. And so many of those things translated into the discussions about the virtual world and its relationship to the real material world and its histories.
Okay. So anybody else from Niimi team would like to say before we now then switch to the next piece?
Oh, I'd like to clarify one thing, that the tree, this beautiful tree in Oriole Park, Niimi, this dancing tree, is not an Indigenous marker tree. It's not a tree. It's one I found in my search for actual marker trees, and one to which I responded with the same questions that I have for the marker trees that we found. But I don't want to mislead anyone by saying, oh, this is a marker tree. We don't believe it's so. But what is very interesting about this tree, perhaps it's a natural marker tree, is that it grows in an area. This is a very residential, I would say upper middle class area with a sweet little manicured park. But the area itself is called Deer Park, and it is called Deer Park because that's what it was before it was settled. It was again more of this savanna, and the northern, in the city, I would say the northerly part of the savanna, and it was a beautiful place maintained through controlled burns to bring the deer, in. So there are many, many deer. And so when I see this tree with its beautiful Arabesque attitude, it seems to be pointing right at the hunting ground. Right. You want some deer? Go there. But again, I don't believe it is a marker tree or a man man-manipulated marker tree. Miigwech, sorry.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for these two beautiful pieces with a real like engagement with the tree by dancer and by dancers, and also by this 2D drawings by Karin. So I think it's all together gives kind of even encouraged to go into the next kind of a step and layer towards the engagement with this tree. And so how you will approach it next time. So thank you for Niimi project. And now we would like to go to the next work, introducing Julia. Okay. Okay, so I would like to introduce author of next piece, Julia Campbell-Sachs. She's originally a cabinet maker and wood artist, but is now mostly working as art conservator. She has worked with forensic labs at the US Fish and Wildlife Organization, a kind of tree detective that IDs trees' origins based on their chemistry and cellular anatomy. I know we would like to show the tree, the machine, and me.
Hi, I'm Julia. I'm a cabinet maker and an art. Yeah, it's part of it. It's okay.
She is reading the script, don't forget. Yeah, reading the script. This is
I work
live.
with wood.
This is live performance. Julia
As
is
you know,
performing live. Yeah.
Wood is tissue. It isn't living tissue, even when the tree is alive, but it is structural tissue that the living cambium produces as the tree grows. Wood supports the living tissues of the tree both structurally and by pulling water up to the leaves. It is a hydraulic system. Though it is not strictly speaking alive, it still works, like a machine. This kinetic piece I made with Carrie Jernigan was inspired by a story we heard about this first steam-powered waterworks in Canada, which provided running water for the first time to the city of Hamilton, Ontario. This massive, human-made wooden hydraulic system was tended by child workers. They did the dangerous work of oiling the machines, which involved climbing the 3-story moving contraption. Many were injured or died during this work, but these children also played at work, riding the giant machine like a mechanical horse. Harry and I saw a kind of resistance in this play. When I'm working with wood, I'm usually thinking a lot about my own body and its relationship both to the wood and to the machines I work with. Machines and tools are designed to be extensions of my body, parts of my body that are not alive, but that serve the living parts of me. Tools and machines give me extra hands for holding things, longer arms for reaching things, and especially sharper teeth for cutting things. When I'm working, I'm also thinking both consciously and unconsciously about the mechanics of my own body, how it's working, when there is strain, where there is pain in my body, and where there is strength. I'm also listening to the machines and feeling their response to my work, the pressure I'm exerting on them. The wood also responds in its own ways because of its physical and mechanical properties. I try to anticipate this, but I can't always, and sometimes it's dangerous. In my work with Carrie Jernigan, we were interested in exploring the physicality of this kind of work. We were thinking a lot about the changing pace of work due to advances in technology and changes in the economy. As it becomes harder to make a living doing what we do, it becomes more important to make things faster and more efficiently. Our work is changing as a result of this. It's faster, louder, more repetitive than it was 100 years ago. We wanted to explore what impact this change of pace was having on our bodies, our lives, and the society we live in. In Pattern Maker, we wanted to honor one of our skilled trades that is in decline. Pattern makers are highly skilled woodworkers that craft the original wooden forms used as models for cast metal gears, pulleys, and machine parts. Casting patterns are some of the most difficult things to make out of wood and require a tremendous amount of precision and time. But metal parts can now be made directly from drawings on computer-directed machines that work thousands of times faster than the human hand. We wanted to play with the idea of work as a site of social and economic power, where social roles are performed and culture is articulated. For one piece, titled Stress, we created a wooden pattern and cast 3 gears from it in aluminum and bronze. First, you'll see the wooden pattern that we made by hand, and then the bronze casting of the pattern. The gears all turn slowly on the wall until approached, at which point they speed up, turning so quickly that their details can't be seen when you're up close. For the piece titled Play, we built 2 5-foot diameter wooden pulley wheels using traditional pattern making techniques from the late 19th and early 20th centuries. On these sit a wooden mannequin with one prosthetic arm made from 3D printed nylon. As traditional ways of making are replaced by rapid computerized ones, the way we experience time changes. We respond to the rhythms of the technologies we work with, we adapt, we fight back, we play to pass the hours. The pace at which we work is the pace at which we live. Now that I have become an art conservator, I don't work in the shop as much, but I do still work closely with wood. Part of my work is to try to identify the species of tree that was used to make historic objects. What wood did the makers who came before me use to make chairs, cabinets, spoons, or religious sculptures? Why did they use these particular woods? What was their relationship to this material? How has this material reacted to the passage of time? I am now trained to look at wood under a microscope and see all the cellular structures of the tree and how it built this material as it grew. The wood is complex. There are many cells with different functions that all work together to create this incredible hydraulic system that is the trunk of a tree. These microscopic systems work collectively to support the massive structures that are entire trees. Each tiny cell plays a role, and together they make a huge ancient sequoia or a giant mahogany or a walnut tree. If I mount my sample in water, sometimes I can even see the cells work. Even when they are not in the tree anymore, they sometimes still function. They are moving water in and out, up and down, like tiny pumps. They are doing their work, even after the living tree has been cut down, sometimes generations later.
Okay. Thank you, Julia. This is, I think, yet another way of becoming a tree. I would say it's more like kind of deconstructing, kind of coming back to the wood's origins. But what I wanted to ask you, how actually you came, because you started to work with woods as a material for creating, work. And then you started to think about the material as such. And now you're saying you're kind of less spending time in the shop. I know deeply are also looking into the depths of those structures. So what can you say about all this transformation in your work?
First of all, sorry, I think my timing was a little off on between the script and the video. I hope that was okay. I think there's a bit of a delay. I came to a point in my work with wood where I really started to see the wood as the flesh of the tree. And I also started to get concerned about deforestation and the amount of waste that was produced in my work. So that really was one of the reasons why I thought about changing my profession, was because I really felt this intimacy with trees from working with their bodies, and started to feel really guilty and bad about all the waste that was produced in my industry. So so I sort of cast around trying to figure out a way to use my skills for something less destructive, I guess. And, not that working with wood has to always be destructive and result in deforestation. It just happens to because of the system that we're in. So that's why I thought it might be better to restore old furniture and conserve old furniture and be involved in identifying woods. And working on wood identification also helps with sort of CITES enforcement, so trying to prevent the trade in endangered tree species. So that's why I wanted to move into that kind of work.
Okay, any questions? Any more questions?
So how did you learn to use these tools? They're mostly very sharp, it seems.
I did a diploma in cabinet making. I went to trade school. But yes, they are. And I really did think about losing limbs, all the time at my job. And but I made it. Look.
Oh, that's really good news. I'm so glad for all of us.
I have a question, Julia. I'm wondering what do you do with the microscopic images after? Is it just to look at the wood, or does it do something else?
So by looking at the anatomy, that's one way that I can identify the species of the tree. So I put it in scientific reports mainly. That's what I do with those images, just to clarify what I've seen and record the evidence of the tree species. And sometimes those reports will be used for, by curators who are interested in the meaning of the wood and stuff, like what the species means about the piece. But also can be used, at borders if a piece is trying to cross a border to prove that it's not endangered. Yeah.
Okay, so it's a kind of a proof.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Sort of
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Giselle, for your question. And now we would like to move to your work. Okay. Okay, Giselle.
Hello.
So the next, okay. So I would like to introduce you and your piece, your video. So Giselle just has opened her new outdoor art installation project entitled Wood, Water, Metal. So this is what we will see at the Monreal Botanical Garden, which creates public art research creation at the intersections of art, science, forests, and climate change. So this is a project with her collaborators from IA Lab and Median and Hexagram. So wood, water metal. Okay.
So it's not performative. It's just going to be a clip that's going to play. It's really just a documentation of the installation that happened in July. It has audio.
Okay, thank you, Giselle, for your work. I would like to ask about the location. So you were choosing this botanical garden and also for the installation, but also the research part was
Yes.
taking place there. So you were using all what kind of equipment? How did you equip? What the medium you used to communicate with the trees? So can you a bit elaborate
Okay.
on this?
Well, there's several locations because the Smart Forests Research Group, which is a pan-Canadian group, have locations across Canada, but we were in 3 sites in the province of Quebec. So we followed them, and really our practice is to go and sort of shadow what the scientists are doing and then compile that, collect that, and then bring that into another kind of experience. So really sharing their methods and approaches with other people's. And then the botanical garden was a partner, a presentation partner. The botanical garden is in that part of the garden is quite interesting because it is a former quarry. It was a quarry in the 30s, so 1930s, and it was then a landfill. So it was, excavated, extracted, filled up with garbage. I think in those years, the landfill had probably mostly organic waste. And then this part, the arboretum, is built on that. So we have this incredibly beautiful location with the conifers. And what was quite striking in the botanical garden, of course, is the trees and the plants are considered as collections. So it's very manicured. It's very, very organized. And so it's a whole other way of thinking about nature. But I think it's also in a continuation of thinking about nature. I don't think nature is necessarily just wild. It has many phases. It has many ways to be, and also, of course, with humans and machines. And so working there was also an honor because we were with the conifers. So the botanical garden is organized as the evolution of plants. So it starts with the oldest plants and then moves towards the fruit trees and flowers, etc. So we were with the elders, and honestly the feeling of being with them every day for a month. It was only open 2 weeks for the publics, but we were there for a full month, and it just gave me so much energy. It was incredible. It was a huge project. It's a year-long preparation, getting to do things outside, which was very, very demanding as well. But also that's what it is. That's being in weather. It's being in climate, and that's the challenge. And so, but being there in the month of July, where it was exceedingly hot and dry this summer in Montreal, when we were there, we were just welcomed by the trees, and every day they were just so giving to us. And so it changed everything.
Okay, some more questions?
So how did you find your collaborators? It must have been a multidisciplinary project, right?
Yes. Well, I work with the scientists. This work came out of a 10-year-long research on residual matter and waste and pollution, and it brought us to climate change. And so it's my university paired me with this science group, because they were also looking for collaborators. They were looking for to get their work out of their strictly disciplinary mode, and extremely open, very, very. So we hit it off like right away, and we do a lot of work like that. AE Lab, which is my artists unit, we work with a lot of different people, and then of course, being a research chair, I involve a lot of my students, and so we were probably a team of 20 doing it all, and this is the first installment. And we're also now preparing a little mobile what we call the mobile climate station that's going to go around the city with a bike. And then we'll have a next installation next summer. So there's 4 installations and then a whole series of activities that go on during the year. So yeah, big team, big, wonderful team.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. There's no talk. Okay, so this is a next piece by Niimi, and I would like also to Antje to join in, because this is also dedicated to in memoriam to the dancer Astad.
Yeah, so this piece is called Rickshaw, which means tree in several languages that are spoken in India. But it also gestures towards much more complex spiritual concepts as well. And so I have known Astad for a very long time. And I invited him to also respond to this tree. He was at the time living in Mumbai. And of course, we couldn't come together. So he asked us to show him footage of our work in Oriole Park around the dancer tree, but also to send a photograph that that we thought was particularly representative for the beauty of this tree. And then he told me he memorized the tree in his head, as he would with other concepts and images and imaginations as a dancer. And then also, we chose a very particular music that was composed by Lars, and he is in our room here today as well. And Astad fell in love with both the tree and this music. And then he basically created this piece in his living room in response to Candy's relationship with the tree, to the tree itself, but also to the music. And then he sent us his video, which we then integrated into another performance, a live streamed and live performed performance that we did in August at the Fields Institute for the Research of Mathematical Sciences. And that's where Dave comes in, who then helped us with the video projection of this particular video, and we will see an excerpt later of that piece. And just for those people who wonder why Nina is here, Nina was part of the team at the very beginning in the park where we all met and created this piece together with Jill and Candy, and Candy's son in the making. And so we would like, in memory of Astad, to show 2 minutes of his video, which is 9 minutes long, just to give you an impression how we then created additional virtual spaces for his dance. And he loved it so much. He loved this video so much. And shared it with his friends, and his friends responded with poetry. It was really beautiful.
Okay, so now we are going to the final discussion. Would like to hear also some questions for the audience, and please feel free to write in chat, right, in YouTube chat, and also would like to just start with it. I would like to ask again the team the question: how many layers do you have actually in this video? How many times you have performed and projected over and over again?
So this was one event in collaboration with the Art Science Salon at the Fields Institute for Research of Mathematical Sciences, and was embedded in a bigger project. But it was an opportunity here for Candy to live interact now with the dance that Astad has choreographed, and an actual living tree, not the same tree as in Oriole Park, but another tree. And maybe Candy can share some of her memories of that night when we did that work.
Last part, before you said night, I didn't hear. I don't know, my speaker's not.
Candy, I was just talking about the night when we were working at the Fields Institute, and how you
what is there a question, or do I specifically talk about, or
The question is about how you liked your performance in response to Astad's performance, who responded to you and the tree. And now you are live performing with another tree.
I really liked it a lot. Oh my goodness, especially the project. It was very cold. So it was interesting, and it was as my belly got bigger from that moment. It was very big, and the baby was very heavy. Yeah. Now he has a lot to say. You want to come up and say? Come on, let's come up and talk together. Okay. So it was, I believe we did it in October, was it? And yeah, and that was the month before my due date. So it was very big, and my movement definitely changed. There was a lot of things I wanted to respond differently to his video, to his response. I wanted to, but I couldn't really, and it was very slippery. It was outside. I remember it rained, so it was very slippery. That changed my movement a lot as a dancer, and then the costume itself, because it was cold, so we needed something warm. But there was an interesting, I guess, exploring as a dancer, the connection to trees, and also at the same time of being pregnant. Ow. Ooh, there was some interesting moments where I felt like he did movements, and I almost strangely felt a connection to the other dancer in a sense of like how do I explain this? Oh, okay. Ugh. Like a motherly connection. I don't know how to, like, there was times where I wasn't even looking at what the other dancer was doing, because I was just focused on what was previously done, or like I turned or something. And I saw in the video later, I saw images a lot of like fertility and community connection, and almost like it was projecting. I don't know if it's because I was pregnant, but almost like it was projecting. Okay, Howie, you can't have a marker. Almost like it was projecting. I saw an image of it projecting my child in the further future, if that makes sense. That's what I saw, having another dancer there. And even the movements that he did, there were certain times where he did a certain movement, and it almost felt like I was giving birth to this person, but my baby's in my stomach. And the way I came out from the tree, it felt like the tree was giving birth to, like, it felt like I came out of the tree gave birth to me, and then I gave birth to the other dancer. That's what the images I saw a lot of. And I don't know if it was just because I was pregnant, my baby was about to come out, but and then I thought well, yeah, like, trees literally give us life. We say this, but we can't take it lightly, because they literally give us oxygen, and beyond oxygen, they provide nitrogen to some of the foods in the forest that we actually consume and eat. Trees literally give birth to us, aside from like our parents, and of course, like, giving its whole body to us to provide us shelter. Oh, okay. That's what you want to say. You have something to say? Go for it. They're all listening. Katsuki. Oh, Anna. He got really quiet.
Okay.
Like, he talks a lot. I thought he might have a comment on it.
Mhm.
Yeah, it felt really nice. Any other questions?
No, we will wrap up now, I think. Can you mute yourself, please, Candy?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I think Thank you for great comments also on YouTube chat. So I think you really, all performances just have encouraged the audience to become more, like they writing also there in the chat, that they become more sensitive to all this, like even flash and space of trees and human bodies and technology. So how this all could be, perceived. And there is also a kind of a question to Giselle about your piece. So would be interested also audience to hear a bit more about your idea of consent.
Okay, you mean according to what I showed, or like on what level are we talking about?
Probably about your piece.
I think it's probably in response also to what Jill said, and if you know.
Okay, well, the idea of consent is it's actually super crucial in my practice as as I work in collaboration for years and years, like 25 years. And so the idea that you bring things together because one wants to contribute some, what they want to contribute, and then you build from that. I didn't ask that question to the scientists. I'm not sure how they would respond to that. I know that some of the scientists work with different First Nations communities, and I think that question of the consent, of asking permission from the tree to do the sampling, to do the reading, to do the monitoring is integral. I'm not sure if everyone on the team does that, but it would be a good question to ask them, because for me, what it does in this instance is that the technologies are enabling an understanding and a connection with the tree that we wouldn't have otherwise. So there is, for me, that there is a circularity and a connection. Is it called consent? I'm not sure if it is, but I think that the process of doing that sampling is bringing us into the reality of the tree, and I think that is a form of consent in a way, because we want to know what's going on. I don't know if that answers the question.
Yes, I think it does, because also more recently the scientists, since they have been started to use all these monitoring systems, they said themselves, some forest scientists, that they very rarely actually go now to the forests, because they have all these data collected or sent or transferred. And this consent question, this is one of those secret questions which we can ask maybe sometimes as artists to interviews, if you would like to know how actually they do, how they approach them, because they are drilling the holes, also they're putting this equipment, right? No, I think it was really great to think about it, that also maybe that you said that they are actually asking for some consent to the tree.
I don't think the science, anyway, I can't speak for everybody or anyone else, but I think scientists are more and more sensitive to questions out of this nature coming outside of their field, because I'm not, depends on who, of course, I'm not one to generalize. But I think they have so many pressing issues that they want to do, that they're treating, and I think they do see it in a sense of community, and it's not instrumentalizing the tree. I don't think it's like that at all. Otherwise, it would be really positivistic and really quite limited in a way of connecting with what's going on with nature. So, and nature including us. Okay, so I'm not saying nature is outside. So yeah, I think this is why the collaborations are important. And then also talking about all of this with the publics, because a lot of publics don't know what's going on with how the scientists are working. And so this was the platform that we're working on, is to create the convergence for dialogue around it. So, and that includes today. So again, it's an honor to be able to talk about it and to share this.
It seems to me that, you know, what connects all of these projects in a way is making of connections, both between humans and trees, but also among humans. I mean, I met so many really interesting people through these projects who have very, unique relationships with trees and with each other. And it is a kind of social labor that you do every day, and you have to do every day. Astad, for example, I knew him for over 20 years. I met him totally by chance. But then, you know, since then, I met all these other people here in this room in one way or another. And I think the question of consent really has also to do with equal relationships, you know, to ask, do you want to do this or not? And often, you know, we objectify or instrumentalize relationships or other living beings, whether that's trees or humans or animals. And I think it is a really important form of decentering the human, just taking what they want in a way and coming back to a more relationality. And that's something that, you know, that Jill brings up all the time. And I'm really grateful for that, because, you know, we can all kind of deepen this kind of understanding and learn it as a social practice. And that's what I kind of see as a kind of almost a thread that goes through the projects that we share today. And I think the question of consent is a question of relationship also. Mm-hmm. I don't know if, you know, if other people have other ideas, but that's something that I think about it as well.
I'd just like to maybe add something, is that if you see the image in behind, you know, it's an image that comes from one of the research sites, and the publics thought that the tree was sick because of it has this bandage and it has all this instrumentation on it. And it was as if it was in a intensive care ward. And it was very, very interesting that they talked about it in terms of this notion of what's going on with the trees. Are they ill? And it's not about illness, it's about care. And so anyways, it was quite interesting for that. And I just wanted to throw that in.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay, I think what can be added, that's really like the best the best conclusion for the end, because yeah, we switched now even from consent to care, which I think is another really great topic in all these exploring relations between the human and the trees. Yeah, so I think if you really want to add something, but otherwise I would like to also thank for supporting everybody who joined. You supported reforestation of the Amazon rainforest, and also us who organized and who participated. So, and I'm really happy to see so many different perspectives of the trees, and I think we are changing how our perspective to all these complex relations, between the forest and atmosphere and air and all these emissions, and everything that is down comes back to soil and also grows again up. So all this complexity is still next step how we deal. Thank you.
Thank you, Raza, for coming here as moderator. And thank you, everybody.
Thanks for inviting. This really is my topic.
I'd like to know more about your project too.
Yeah, next time.
So Lars would like to chime in with something because he didn't have a chance so far to say something, and he could just choose to say something.
Yeah, I I'm really sad about that. I did not met Astad personally. I would love to would have loved to work with him, and it would be so great that we would work on that go on, maybe on personally, maybe also I don't know, meeting us directly and doing something in direct. It's yeah, it's yeah.
Thanks, Lars.
I'm in English break. Sorry.
I know it's not easy. It's not easy.
Yeah, okay. Thanks everybody for supporting reforestation of the Amazon rainforest again and again. So I'm for it and happy that you all came. Okay, thank you. Bye.